I just hit cancel on my ChatGPT and Claude subscriptions because Tana's new AI agents have made them completely unnecessary. It lets you create your own custom AI assistants that actually work with your notes in real time. So think custom GPTs or Claude projects, but right where you're already doing your work and connected to all of that work. So today I'm going to show you how to get started with these agents. Firstly, we're going to cover how to set these up. And trust me, it's way easier than you might think. Second, we're going to talk about how to build one single AI menu to organize all of these agents. And finally, 3 practical ways that I am personally using this to speed up my work. And trust me, the third one is something you're going to want to stick around for. Before we dive in, if you really want to build a high-performing Tana workspace, then I would highly recommend you check out my weekly Tana Toolbox newsletter. Every Sunday, I drop one simple, high-impact Tana workflow into your inbox. No complex systems or overwhelming setups, just practical ways to make Tana work smarter for you. So I'll pop it in the link in the description and I hope you check it out. So like I said, AI agents are like having a custom GPT or a Claude project right within Tana. And the obvious advantage of that is that it can pull in information from any of your notes. So whereas, with ChatGPT, it's kind of static. You give it information in the custom GPT, but it doesn't auto update. Whereas in Tana, it already has all the information. So I showed this really simple AI agent in a couple of videos ago when we were talking about meetings. And it's a simple AI agent that lets you chat with your meeting. And because it's on this particular meeting, it's reading from the attendees that were in the meeting, the agenda that we had, the transcript that's in here. So it has all the information already that you need. So all you have to do is click the button and then you can ask any follow-up questions. So we could ask it questions like, what were the actions from the meeting? Really simple one. It's going to list out all the actions. Quite often, I will use this kind of meeting chat for if I need to go back. If I'm working on an action and I need to remind myself what was talked about, I might say something like, what did we say about branding? And you can easily kind of start to go back and not have to troll through a transcript. Let me show you how exactly these AI agents work, and then I'm going to get into some very specific ones that I personally have developed and use almost every day. In order to set up one of these agents, you're going to set it up on a super tag. So whichever super tag that you want to run an AI assistant on, that's the one that you're going to set it up on. So we're just going to use this meeting one as an example. So come to your meeting super tag, press configure. Once you're there, you want to come down here into AI and commands. If we open this up, then you're going to see 2 menus that you can add commands to. I personally would add your AI commands to the full menu. That means that it shows up when you're zoomed into a node, okay? So you can see we've got chat with meeting here. What you need to do is name your new command, okay? So let's say this one is action items, for instance, okay? When you type here in the full menu, it's going to prompt you to convert it to a command. So that's what we're going to do. Then what we need to do is we need to find our command module, and the module that we're looking for is Start AI Chat. So we're going to go at and then AI, and then we're looking for this one, Start AI Chat. Once we get there, we can click Add Configuration, and then we need to add or the fields that we can add is the agent, target node, and initial prompt. The only one you really need is the agent. Okay, so type shift period. That gets the field, and then just type agent, and that adds the field in, okay? Now, this is where we configure the actual custom part of the GPT. So if you've used custom GPTs before, if you've used Claude projects before, this is the custom part, okay? So we need to give this a name. I often just name it the same as the command. So let's say action, or let's call this actions from meeting, right? Just so we know. And then that's going to prompt you to convert this to an agent. What's going to happen is you're going to get this fun icon, and you're going to get all of the details that we need to give it to make this into your AI agent. Okay, so let me explain what these are, because it can be a little confusing in the beginning, but actually it's so easy. Okay, so the first thing that you want to going to put in is your system prompt. If you've worked with custom GPTs before or Claude projects, this is like that custom prompt that you put in. Okay, so this is where you're going to add your context. You're going to say, you're going to act as, a management coach. You're going to act as my writing editor. You're going to act as this. Okay, then you're going to tell it, this is what we're doing today. Then you're going to give it any context or information that it needs. Now, this is where it gets really interesting in Tana, because you can bring in anything that Tana needs from your notes. So in this case, a lot of the time, if you're just working on a single node like this, so if you want it to read everything from the node that you're on, then you can add, and it gives you a little prompt here, is this particular command here, so sys context. What that does is it basically dumps in everything that is in your that is in the current node that you're in. Okay, so this, if it was this project kickoff, it's going to dump in all of this information so that it has stuff to work with. Okay, that's probably the one that you will use all the time. But you can also add, if you didn't necessarily want the whole node, what you could do in something like this is you can add different fields. So I could say, so if you want the node name, okay, that would be project kickoff. I could have meeting, and then what you want to do is, if you want to add fields or the name, you use these same kind of dollar signs and squiggly brackets. So you start with a dollar sign, you have an open squiggly bracket, you put the field name in, and then you close with a squiggly bracket. Okay, so if you want the name of the node, it's just name. If we wanted to grab the attendees, okay, let's say we want the attendees, then we would add the attendees field. Okay, so usually what I do is I come over here, I copy it, and then I do dollar sign, squiggly bracket, paste, close squiggly bracket. Okay, that's only going to paste the attendees in. I might then say my transcript. Okay, so I have a transcript field. Okay, here. And so I might say this is the transcript, and I'll go dollar sign, squiggly bracket, transcript, and then we're done. Okay, so this is where you add everything in. The other great thing about Tana is that if you wanted to include a search in your system prompt, you could. So if you had something that you searched for, so let's say you wanted to see any past meetings, okay, you could just do a create a search. So just type a backslash, and then you'll get this menu, and you can go search node. Okay, and let's say we're looking for meetings. Okay, that's going to list all the different meetings. If you wanted to filter that in any way, you could come in here. You could filter by attendees, for instance. You could say you only want, meetings that attendees are set, and that's going to bring up a whole lot of different meetings. You might use that in different contexts, but the idea is that it is an auto-updating search, so that every time you run this AI assistant, you're pulling in the live results of different searches. So that's your system prompt. Think about that as context. You're giving it who it is, what you're doing today, and any context that it needs from your notes. Okay. The second thing that you want to add in is your chat greeting. Okay. Now, this is basically just like what AI is going to respond to you in its first message. Okay. So usually I say, how can I help you today? All right. Now, those two are compulsory. You have to add a system prompt, and you have to add a chat greeting. Then you can add an initial prompt after that. So what that means is that if we just went like this, okay, and if I ran this, okay, if we just ran action items, okay, it's going to stop there, and what you get is a box to ask your question. So In our case, with chat with meeting, that's what we want because we want to chat with the meeting. And we could be asking it anything, right? So we don't necessarily need an initial prompt. But let's say, for instance, in this case, we did want it to do something specific. Okay, so I might want to get the action items from the meeting. Okay, or I might want to summarize the meeting. Okay, something like that. So you can put your initial prompt in here. So I might say, summarize the meeting and list action items. Okay, and as soon as I do that, as soon as I give it an initial prompt, what will happen is we can click the action items and then that initial prompt is sent off and we get a response. Okay. And so from there, I can then continue to ask questions, refine it, that kind of thing. And so I use both of these in different ways. So there's sometimes where I need something open-ended, and there's sometimes where I'm very, very specific and I'm looking to do a certain thing, but what I want is to be able to iterate on that. So that's why I use the AI agent instead of a one set prompt, which you can use to just kind of, get things without having to chat. Now you'll notice that here we have an initial prompt, and we also have an initial prompt that you can add here, okay, as part of this AI chat. Now, what this means is that if you just have one agent that you know that you're only going to use it one time, okay, then you can add the initial prompt into the agent itself. If you have an agent, and let's say this meeting bot is, something that we might reuse, okay, but we might want to have different initial prompts and we don't have to want to set it up each time. So what you could do instead is add your initial prompt down here. Okay, and that means that this then can become something like the meeting bot, and I could reuse this agent a number of different times, okay, and have different initial prompts each time. So it just depends how you're going to use your agent, but most of it doesn't matter which initial prompt you add it into, really. And I would suggest that you start off by using the initial prompt in the AI chat module rather than in the meeting bot, rather than in the agent, because it just means that then you have more opportunities to reuse that agent if you need. Okay, so that's our prompts, the system prompt, the chat greeting, and the initial prompt. Okay, the next set of fields just give you more options. Okay, so you can set a node filter on any of your agents. So that means that it can only run if the conditions are what you set. Okay, so let's say that I can only run this particular meeting agent if I have a transcript. If I don't, I can't run it. So how you'll do that is you would just have the transcript field as not as set. Okay, that's when this can only run. So to do that, we just add a field in. We go transcript, and then here it would have to be at set. Okay, so this means can only ever run. It can't run if we don't have a transcript. Okay, so I don't always set up node filters for these, but in this case, we can. You can also set the temperature. Okay, so the higher you set the temperature towards 2, the more creative ChatGPT will get. Okay, basically. Experiment with temperatures. I don't always put a temperature in, but you can. You can also add commands or follow-up commands to your chat. This is going to make more sense when I dive into some of the different examples, but it's really handy to be able to do something like summarize the chat, things like that. So you can set up different commands, and then you can also choose your AI models. Okay, so there's a whole lot of different GPT models in there. There is also the Claude model. I use Claude probably 70 to 80% of the time. I like the output of it. Definitely when I'm doing a lot of writing, a lot of expressing myself, I feel like Claude works better. In terms of being very logical, I think GPTs probably work a little bit better. And that's it. Okay, so once you have your agent set up, once you have your initial prompt set up, you're good to go. Okay. And so you can set up as many of these as you want. Now, if you're anything like me, once you get an idea for one of these, you're going to get an idea for a lot of them. And so you might end up with a lot of different buttons on your super tags. So what you can do here is use the new command menu feature. Now, I did a specific video on how the new command menus work, and I'll put a link to that above. But basically, you just come and create a new node in the full menu. Give it a name. You could do AI agents, for instance. Rather than convert it to a command, go Command K and convert it to a group. Once you've done that, then you can just drag your commands in there, and then you get one button that has each of your commands in it. And that just means that you have more room to put more AI commands and agents, and the sky is really the limit for you. All right, so let me show you 3 different use cases that I have AI agents for. These are just a very small sample of my different AI agents. But the first one is chatting with my notes, my ideas, my highlights, that kind of thing. Okay, so I keep a lot of notes in Tana, from ideas to readwise highlights, all of that kind of thing. And I like to kind of expand on those ideas. So one of the AI agents that I have set up is called the 5-question framework. Now, I have a full AI note-taking playbook that I will link below, but basically it has like all of the different prompts that I use on my notes. But this is one of them, and it's one of my favorites. So it's called the 5-question framework. When it runs, so I'll open a new one, it basically starts with a question. Okay, so it will ask you a question about the note. Okay, so and the whole idea behind it is that it's meant to help you go deeper. Okay, so I find that I think better when I'm posed with questions rather than just like looking at some random idea that I put down. What that looks like, and this is one that I prepared previously, but basically it kind of starts off with some different questions. Then I answer those questions. It kind of, we continue on in kind of a conversation, and I can make that conversation last as long or as short as I want. This just helps me really start to unlock an idea, and I love this prompt. It's one of my favorites. And I think I mentioned to you that you can add commands to each of your agents. So what I have here is a command that basically summarizes the whole chat, and I'll get into how exactly this is set up. But once I've kind of, exhausted the questions, then I can click on this, summarize my thoughts. And what it will do is it will go back through the whole chat, and it will look only at my answers, and it will actually summarize them into a very, very decent summary. And I can then kind of put that, so I can go here, move. This is the draft panel, by the way. And I could say add to bottom of original, and that's going to add it in here. Okay, this is probably the main way that I start exploring ideas right now. So how this works is we have the 5-question framework prompt. Okay, so it's an AI chat module, and the agent is called 5-question framework. The prompt is very simple, okay? And all these prompts, like I mentioned, is in my AI note-taking playbook. So you're my thinking partner. Your job's to draw up my personal insights. You're curious. You love to ask questions. Your job is to make me, push me to think better, encourage me to go deeper. Our outcome is to go from fuzzy idea to fully fleshed out. Okay, today we're focusing on this idea. And for this one, I just use this context because I just wanted to grab everything from here. And then I give it an initial prompt. Okay, ask me 5 questions about the topic or idea. Your goal is to discover my unique opinions, experiences, or insights. Ask each question one by one. Don't let me sit on the surface, like push me to go deeper. Treat this like a conversation between 2 curious people. Okay. I use Claude for this. I find it much more curious than ChatGPT is. And like I said, down here we have a command that then summarizes my thoughts. So in this command, and this is how you can kind of have your chat, your AI agent, then also with another AI command, but not a chat. Okay, so this is just a one-shot prompt. So if we open this up, we've got a prompt in here. Let's just open this up fully. That says, we've just had an interesting discussion, taking my fuzzy thoughts and exploring them. Now I'd like you to examine the answers and summarize them into a fully fleshed out idea. Okay, write as if I am writing, so from my perspective, and use the same writing style as you see in my answers. Here is our chat. And then you see here this module, which basically you get if you go at. Okay, so if I go at, you can find a whole lot of different things that you can insert in. Okay, so you've got the node name, you've got context, content, chat, all of that. So we're going to go chat, okay, and that just adds that in there. All right, and then I've got the target node here as the draft panel. So that just means that I can open up as a draft and then I can insert it into my notes. And so that is my 5-question framework agent. And it is so helpful when it comes to getting started exploring the ideas rather than just sitting there staring at a blank page thinking, what the heck am I supposed to do next? All right, so for this next one, this is a agent that I use to write follow-up emails from meetings. So if you're anything like me, you do a lot of meetings. Some of those are internal meetings with my team. A lot of them are meetings with clients. And so what I have to do at the end of a meeting is write an email, and do some kind of follow-up. So I created an agent that does this really easily. So this I've added to my meeting super tag. And if I come into this menu, you can see follow-up email. So basically what it's doing is it's taking all the context of the transcript, who I've had the meeting with, all of that kind of thing, and it writes a follow-up email. So if I click on that, it comes up, and this is one where I have an initial prompt kind of baked in, because I know exactly what I want it to do. Okay, so it gives you a subject. Hey, Katie, great catching up today. Sounds like you're really picking up at the studio. I work with fitness studio owners, and I'm thrilled to hear about the success. Okay, new customers, da 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 da. So it just gives a little summary of what we talked about. Here's a recap of what we discussed and next steps. Okay, update your ad costs, focus on getting emails out to your members, explore a referral program, and then that's it. And so the reason that I have this as an AI agent is because then I can, if I need to kind of tweak it, I can kind of give it any extra information and kind of tweak the email. And so once I've done, I copy it into my emails and send it. It takes me less than 5 minutes. Let me show you what that looks like. So we're looking at this follow-up email. Again, it's just the AI agent module. And inside this agent, we have, let's just open up that full. Okay, so this is just, you're my executive assistant. You sit on all my meetings and you deal with my admin. Okay. For context, this is who I am. Okay. And anyone else in the meeting is obviously my client. So what I was finding is that when I wrote this prompt is it was writing from the other person's perspective and not my perspective. It just didn't have context. Okay. So I tell it what I want. I want a quick recap. Just a few short sentences, no bullet points, right? A paragraph. Then include follow-up details. This is where you can use bullet points. Here are the details of today's meeting. So you see here, I don't have the full context of the meeting. I just have the name of the meeting, the attendees, and the transcript. I found sometimes in the past I've included the agenda as well, but I just found it wasn't that helpful. The transcript is everything that it needs. The chat greeting is how can I help today? And then the initial prompt is just write a follow-up email to my client with any details that we discussed. Keep the email casual. These are just ongoing, clients that I have a close relationship with. Okay. For this, I do use GPT-4o because I find it just better at structure. But again, it's something that you just have to experiment with. Okay. All of these prompts are just as I've run them, something doesn't work right, I don't like it, that kind of thing. And so I just keep adjusting it over time. Now, this final one is actually, I'm going to say, a game changer. So this is what I call the weekly review agent, and it's an agent that I set up to help me review my week. Now, context, I hate the weekly review. Okay. I don't actually find it helpful. And I guess how I work better is if somebody asks me questions about things, I work better. So I build an agent to ask me some questions about my week and discover some fun things. So this works on the week super tag. So inside my week super tag, I have what I call snapshots, and these are just summaries of all the different things that I've logged throughout the week. So I have my schedule, which basically shows me everything that I've had on for the week, all the tasks that I have done, all of that. So it's a good recap of the week. I've got all of the tasks that I've completed that week. I've got any moments that I've captured, journal entries, and then also Spark notes. So like notes that I've saved. And so this gives me a really kind of comprehensive view of what's happened in my week. And so what I do is basically I come up here to my menu and I go weekly review. And that kicks off the chat. And inside the chat, then it has all of this context already. So basically, what it does is kind of act as a bit of a coach, and it reviews, my journals. And I noticed you've been stressed and tired this week. Let's, think about what was your overall energy like. What do you think, contributed to this or that. It is really like having a bit of a life coach baked into Tana, and I find this much more helpful than just scouring through, my journals and trying to figure stuff out on my own. I find that I definitely need that partnership of, even if it's a machine asking me questions, starts to spark things in my head. Okay. So this is a really fun one. So how to set this one up is actually quite easy. So if we come to weekly review, so again, it's the AI chat module. If we open this up, I've got the weekly review up here. So the system prompt that I put in here is, you are my weekly review coach. You're going to help me conduct a weekly review. I've gathered all the information you need to understand how my week went, from my schedule to tasks I've completed, journal entries and notes. First, analyze everything and then prepare a set of questions to help both you and me understand how my week went and how I could improve. You should act as a coach, drawing things out of me. When asking questions, don't ask them in one big block. Okay. So sometimes it likes to, ask like 10 questions, like just one by one. Treat this like a conversation. You can find everything you need here. And we just use the sys context. Okay. The chat greeting is just, let's start your weekly review. And what you'll notice here is that I put the initial prompt out here, start my weekly review. And that just means that I can then reuse this particular agent. I have never really been consistent with a weekly review, only because it feels hard. And so I find that with just that initial prompt, it gets me into the process and I can just kind of get started from there. Now, you might be wondering also, how much is this going to cost you? Now, it is a pro feature, so you do need the pro plan of Tana to make this happen. So that's going to be $14 a month for a yearly, or $18 a month for a monthly subscription. That includes 5,000 AI credits. Now, I'm a pretty heavy user of this and I've literally never run out of credits. So 5,000 credits feels like a lot for me, but you can also top up your credits as you need. So my thinking around this was, I was already paying for ChatGPT Pro and Claude, and that's about 40 to 50 USD a month. So by canceling that and by just paying $18 for the Pro, I'm actually saving money in the long run. And I get the best note-taking outliner tool on the market right at this moment, plus all the AI features and everything else that comes with Tana. So for me, it feels like a real no-brainer. All right, so what do you reckon? Have I convinced you to cancel your ChatGPT or Claude subscription and go all in on Tana? Let me know in the comments. I hope at least that I've convinced you to give Tana a go. And for that, I'll leave a sign up link in the description box and you can check it out. Now, if you're the kind of person who does a lot of meetings and you want to specifically up your game with AI agents, then watch this next video that I created for you. And don't forget to sign up for my Tana Toolbox newsletter if you want to build an intelligent Tana workspace that works for you. And if you want more Tana content like this in your feed, like and subscribe to the channel.